Welcome back to another episode of Walking on the Cloud with Marco. Today, I want to take a little bit of time to discuss what the top 5 certifications, in my opinion, will be for 2020. So the first certification to pursue, definitely in 2020, is anything to do with cloud security. That's really an important topic. That's really a topic that's been sort of left on the back burner for a lot of businesses, which means that not enough time has been spent on security, not enough effort has been put in to make the environment secure, not enough work has been done to ensure that your data doesn't get exposed. Right? So that's sort of become a reality throughout some very notable breaches that we had in 2018 and 2019. And the field of IT security has always been sort of a niche area, but now with the tools that you have available in the cloud, you can actually design a very secure environment when you just follow the best practices and use the tools that are available to you right there in the cloud. Right? So IT security, without a doubt, there is a deficit of IT security personnel. There's a deficit of knowledgeable people who can implement a secure solution at all levels, right? And if you are really into cloud, if you're architecting, if you're a sysops person, if you're a developer, if you're just somebody who does project management and your applications and projects are being deployed in the cloud, you should either have an IT security person that you can quickly contact, or you should yourself be at the level where you think you're confident that you can implement security according to best practices of cloud providers. And when we talk about security and cloud, most cloud providers will give you pretty good recommendations for pretty good standard practices that, when put in place, just simply raise the bar for security so high that you're only going to have to be defending from very, very sophisticated attackers, right? So how do we defend from very sophisticated attackers? Well, one way is having an eye on our application. One thing that's always lost in translation is you put up logging, you put up event handling, you make sure that everything is captured, but then nobody checks those logs. Nobody takes the time to do a revision of those logs. There's no automation in place that helps trigger based on a certain anomaly in the logs, right? So getting the understanding of your environment, getting an understanding what is a normal log message and what is an anomaly in your environment is going to take a bit of effort, and you're going to have to study your logs, you're going to have to study your application. And if you know your application well, then that shouldn't be a problem. But if you don't know your application, that can be a daunting task. That can be analogous to data analytics. That can be analogous to capturing big data and trying to process it in the most efficient manner. Now, the second most important certification, in my opinion, is going to be a cloud architecting certification. You should be pursuing a cloud architecting certification if you're interested in developing, deploying, migrating to the cloud, right? Because cloud architecting usually is sort of the first step to getting to understand what the features of that cloud provider are. Whether you're running on AWS, whether you're running on GCP, whether you're running on Azure, whether you're running on Rackspace, IBM, whether you're running on Alibaba Cloud, it doesn't really matter who you're with. Even if you're running inside of your own company and you have an internal cloud environment based on something like OpenStack, it does not matter. You have to have a way to understand, you have to find a way to teach yourself to learn how to understand how that environment operates and to architect solutions appropriately for it, right? Cloud environments do have their own specific features and services, and those features and services are going to be very much oriented towards a specific niche of the cloud market that the provider is trying to sort of capture, right? So there might be ease of management, but that might come at the cost of security. There might be very, very high security, but then it might be complicated to manage it. Whew, that was a sentence, hard sentence to get off my tongue. So basically what I'm trying to say is architecting, probably top 3 are AWS, GCP, and Azure right now. There's a lot of movement on that front. A lot of architecting positions, a lot of positions for developers also are continuously still opening up. So number 3, I would say developing on any platform, right? So getting a certification that you are certified as a developer for that specific platform, like for example AWS developer certification, or a certification that's oriented towards developing on the Google or Azure platform, would definitely be beneficial towards your credentials for getting a job in this area. Or maybe if you just want to prove to your employer that you are ready to take on a new task, that you are ready to advance your career, then that's an option too. Developing has been sort of the mainstay of cloud computing, right? Cloud computing is designed for developers. It is designed for developers to address cloud directly via APIs, meaning it has to be simple to consume, it has to be pretty much self-service, it has to be as efficient as possible and as easy to use. And most cloud providers will have a public API that that's easily accessible. If you want to grab that public API off of their website and start calling the infrastructure and building services, it's I mean, you can get started within the first few hours. You're up and running, right? Even if you have no understanding of the environment, writing API calls is not that difficult. So it's fairly easy to get started and fairly easy to really start developing solutions on that platform. Number 4 certification, in my opinion, is big data. Big data has been on the up and up over the past 3 years. Probably half of my training that I spent in 2019 was on big data. Not half, maybe 40% for sure. And of course, a larger chunk of consulting is related to big data. So having a big data certification really proves that you have the knowledge of big data tools, that you have the knowledge of how those tools essentially work in any of those cloud provider environments. With big data certification, it's good because you're not only proving that you know that cloud environment, you're also proving that you know that big data environment. So for example, if you get certified as a big data specialty on AWS, which is unfortunately being phased out and is going to be replaced by a new certification. But anyway, if you want to pass that certification, there still is a little bit of time. I think it's phased out end of April. Where I wanted to go with this was, when you are doing big data certification for a certain cloud provider environment, you're also going to be proving that you know Hadoop, that you know the frameworks, that you know Spark, that you know all of those features that can be run on that cluster manager platform. And then number 5 is going to be any kind of data analytics certification, right? Any certification where you are going to be proving that you have the skills to actually run data analytics. And when we talk about the skills needed to run data analytics, we're talking about understanding of things like ANSI SQL, understanding of things like how to filter through data, how to sort it, rank it, what MapReduce is, what features should you be using when you're running a MapReduce operation, when you're running a certain service in one of the cloud platforms. Does it help you with sorting your data? Does it help you? Does it do half of the MapReduce process, right? Sometimes we look at things like streaming data. When we capture streaming data and we capture it to domains or shards, it's already going to be mapped, right, to the shard, to the domain. So for example, let's say I'm capturing sentiment from Twitter about my business, right? And I want to know how many tweets, how many retweets, how many mentions, and what the sentiment is generally, right? I'm gonna map my data coming in from Twitter to certain well, I'm gonna have to map my data to coming in from Twitter to certain shards or domains on the streaming engine, and then once I have them, they're already mapped, right? Let's say I want to organize by, let's say, geography, right? Let's see, I want to have sentiment according to North America, according to Europe, according to Asia. It's really easy to capture Twitter sentiment and organize the domains via geography and then sub-geography, like all the 26 different EU countries or all the 52 different states in the US, etc., right? That's the idea of analytics. You have to know which tools can help you do half the job, right? And of course, with an analytics certification, the proof is in the pudding. So you are really going to be proving that you can do that job. And when you have any kind of analytics certification, you definitely have a much better chance to getting a job, a data analyst job or something like that. Sometimes the data analyst job starts also with architecting or sysops, right? If you get into a position where you're able to design solutions that are able to capture streaming data, that are able to capture large volumes of data that are going to be consumed for data analytics, that can also give you an opportunity to learn about analytics, right? So there's many ways to get into each and every field, and I think that there's an episode that needs to be talking just about that. It needs to talk about how to get into a specific field. What are the possible options? And I'm gonna make this one a wrap today. Since you can hear my phone ringing in my pocket, I do apologize for that. And of course, I will see you next week in another episode of Walking on the Cloud with Marco. Goodbye.